So I'm just gonna notch this out right in this area. It's always nerve-wracking.
Good luck. Welcome back to the Turbo versus NA build-off, where I bought this Arizona Mint EF hatch for an NA build, while Pete snagged this very tidy EG hatch with a B16B swap in it that we're gonna toss a turbo onto. I hope you love redheads as much as I do, because as you would have seen last episode, we bolted this B16B out of an EK9 Civic Type R into my EF, but not before pulling the cylinder head for an OE spec refresh. From there, we installed a lightweight spec flywheel and stage 1 clutch and bolted up an EK9 Civic Type R transmission, which meant we were committed to doing a cable to hydraulic clutch kit from Hush Performance. A custom engine harness from Versatile Wiring made mating the B16B to the EF chassis a piece of cake, so now all we have to do is button this swap up and turn the key. Wow, lots of great progress has been made here. We're actually getting pretty close to this thing being ready to fire up, but to give you a bit of a recap, we have used a PLM throttle cable bracket that's actually designed to use the original D-Series throttle cable on a B-Series engine swap. So that means D-Series cable, you don't have to go out and buy another throttle cable, and it seems to work really well. We're also able to reuse a lot of other stuff like the brake booster hose, that just fits right up to the B-Series manifold. Fuel line fits right up to the fuel rail. The heater hoses all fit up to the block. So it was really very simple to drop this in here and just reuse a bunch of the D-Series stuff. Big shout out to VersatileWiringLLC.com, because this harness worked perfectly. All the routing is as I remember B-Series routing to work. The links were all perfect. Everything just plugged in. So top marks to Versatile Wiring for that harness, which I think only cost $500. Is that right,
Yeah,
Pete?
man. Best deal ever.
Best deal ever. And if we jump in the front here, you'll also see that Pete finished off the AC pump installation using that very nice billet Hasport bracket. Comes with all the spacers and the bolts you need to get it in the right position. And Brian's video from VTEC Academy did the job, because the clearancing that Pete did on the frame rail down here for the alternator is perfect. It's like got, 5 mil of clearance. The shape of it's nice. It's not ugly. None of the paint fell off. So top marks for Brian and for Peter for using that dolly so expertly.
And as you guys saw, much to Dave's chagrin, we had to take the distributor off of the Type R and install it here, because the one that I've ordered hasn't shown up yet. I think it's on back order. Basically, we've run into a problem, and that is OE distributors are getting old. They're harder to find, especially the VTEC ones. And going to buy a used one, you're basically into it like $250 Canadian, whereas I was able to purchase a Dragonfire unit, which it seems like the best replacement aftermarket one for $250 US. So a small little spend more and you get a brand new distributor, which I think is worth it. The trouble is, that is the one that I figured out is like the best. Who knows how good it is compared to OEM? We're gonna find out. But if you guys know or have any type of like sure good VTEC distributor that's aftermarket, certainly post in the comments. That'll help us out and a lot of people that are doing these swaps, or the VTEC guys that need distributors, because they are just hard to find. I know a lot of like the cheap ones on Rock Auto do not work well, so we're trying to avoid those.
For a header, we have gone with the exact same unit we put on my Type R, and that is a PLM TA header. And we chose this one for the Type R really because it was known to make really good power and is also incredibly affordable. The reason we chose it for this build, however, really isn't about power, it was more about fitment. We were concerned about, first of all, ground clearance and having it fit with the exhaust properly, but also fitting up in the engine bay and around the engine as tightly as possible because this car has air conditioning. And based on my research online, this is the best fitting header as far as keeping the runners up here tight to the engine, giving you room for the AC. All right, well, so far so good. It clears this AC line. I'm just fouling on it slightly there, but here we go. Yeah, we are just, there it goes. Wow, okay. As you can see, we've got the header just temporarily bolted in place here, and it fits remarkably well. We've got really good clearance. We'll have to, massage these AC lines a little bit just to make them not touch the header, but this header's fitment is remarkably good.
And for a Rad, Koyo Rad has us covered with their all aluminum B series swap radiator for this chassis, so EF and CRX, and that means we do get the larger hose inlets that we need to use with the B series, and this is their 25 millimeter high density hypercore, so it's going to cool well, and it's 56% larger capacity than stock. So we're not going to have any issues keeping this engine cool. However, what we are going to run into is we need to mount fans onto here, and on this side, we're not going to have a problem. We can use the factory fan. However, on the side where the header is right here, we need to figure out like a slim fan solution because we do not have a lot of real estate. We have these old SPAL fans kicking around from another project. Thankfully, they are the slim kind, and you can see we managed to squeeze it in here. It's certainly a tight fit, but it's going to work. And then we're just gonna have to do some bending of the AC hose here to get it into a spot that we think is gonna be good so it's not touching the header. And here you've got a better look at the fan. We have mounted it on here. And now we remove the header because you were not going to be able to mount this rad and fan combo into here with the header. Certainly is one of those situations where it's gonna be a tight fit regardless. And I can already tell right now it's gonna be really tight trying to get this in here, but it will drop in with a little bit of finesse. With the header in here, it would have never happened. It's certainly tight, but I think we've made it work with ample clearance. Our AC line here, put a little bit of like DEI reflective wrap on it. We used a P-clip to kind of like push it as far away from the header as we can get it. And closer to the fan. Up top, same deal. And I think we've got ample clearance for the header. Our slim fan is in. I've put the stock EF Civic plug onto the fan, so it's gonna connect up to the whole wiring harness pretty easy. So we are essentially done here. We're just gonna drop in the OE fan right here, and then we can move on. Stock fan is in, and the last thing to finish off the coolant system is the hoses, or are the hoses. And from what I read on the internet, 90 to 93 Integra hoses do work. So let's see. Looks like that lower rad hose fits up perfectly. So that one did work. However, the top one does not work because, and I've realized this now, the VTEC head has the spout facing on the rearward side of the head, where all the LS engines have it on the front. And you can see this hose does not fit up here at all. I kind of have to like tweak it like that and then cut it. Doesn't make sense. I just ordered a VTEC version of the of this hose from a 98 Type R. I'm pretty sure we'll make that work. It's kind of got the same routing. I'll have to shorten it a bit, but we'll have to get back to that tomorrow. If you guys recall in a previous episode, we mentioned we're gonna have to modify this front cross member to fit the B series. And let's see, we know people have header issues, so that's one of the problems. Oh wow, we're like super close here, but I can see, look, this bracket for the mount on the D series is hitting the engine. So this is the first thing we're gonna have to chop off, is this guy right here. Instead of trying to just cut these off with a cutting disc, it's gonna make a lot of mess, I'm going to try to use a proper spot weld extractor bit. There are 2, 4, 6, 8 of them, and I think that will be the much cleaner and better method to do this. So let's just see how this goes here. These are pretty big spot welds though. Holy smokes, DP. Oh yeah, we're gonna need to clamp this down properly. Okay, so I think I've got all the spot welds here. It's not really moving much. Usually these would just come off, but sometimes it needs a little bit of persuasion to see what happens. But come on. There it is. Oh, I don't have to mangle this at all, guys, to get this off. No, not at all. Now, I'm gonna fit this back up and have a look here. Let's put some bolts in here, DP, and see just how close we are, because, man, we're super close to clearing. It clears remarkably well everywhere except right here. So I'm just gonna notch this out right in this area. Or even, I could even hammer this down, DP.
Yeah, it's just a lip. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Hammer it down.
One or the other, and then that will give us the clearance we need. Like you can see, we've got good clearance here. Maybe I'll just, give this some hammering here too, just in case, or just go all the way across. Well, it's all back in now. I gave it a quick paint job, as you guys saw, and the clearance on it is pretty perfect. I did have to do a little bit of hammering up on the top portion here, just because the clearance was there, but I'm like, if the engine rocks a little bit, it might touch, so just to avoid that. But this is all in, and truthfully, when you look at it, it wasn't a lot of work. I thought it was going to be like a full cut job, and a lot of people, what they do is they go to a traction bar setup here, and I look at this and I go, this is just a little bit of like massaging and trimming, and we're good to go. So this is certainly an option if you're not looking to go the traction bar way and like keep it more OEM.
Moving on to the shifter linkage assembly and the shifter itself, and for that we ordered a new shifter linkage setup from Hasport. They actually make these brand spanking new. The one thing Brian at Hasport did tell me is that these are a replica of the non-Type R ones. So the Type R ones are apparently a little stiffer, but if you need brand new ones, because these tend to get pretty rotten over time, pretty awesome that Hasport has these in production. However, what we didn't realize is that we can't reuse the bushings off the D series linkage, because as you can see they're different sizes. So we just ordered the hard race kit for the bushings on here, and that'll take care of that. And as far as the shifter itself goes, this is the D series shifter, which could be used, but why not upgrade to the K-Tune shifter, which I actually have in my Type R, and I absolutely love it because it gives you height adjustability and position adjustability by rotating this bend here, so you can move it closer to you, or you can move it any direction you want. And height wise it's fully adjustable too. So I do find in these Golden Era Hondas the shifters are quite low and a little far forward, especially for somebody of my dimensions where I'm kind of like short in the arms and long in the torso, so I'm a little further away from the shifter than I want. This gives me the adjustability I want to get it in the position I want, and it has a spherical bearing down here instead of a sloppy, worn out rubber bushing. So really worthwhile upgrade, very affordable too. So this will bolt into the Hasport linkage, and we'll have a really positive, fully adjustable shifting setup.
Damn, that zinc plated shift linkage, DP, it is looking mighty fine up here. We are now moving on to the exhaust system. When Vibrant and Goki's Garage built this, they used the D-Series header setup, and as you can see, it is not going to mate up to our new 2.5-inch header here. So I've got the 2.5-inch Vibrant collector that they sell that mates to like the OEM style, like donut gasket here, yes. And then what I'm going to do is chop this and put a catalytic converter in here, everybody. That's right, we're putting a cat in, high flow one, because really it's not going to affect the horsepower, but this is going to allow this car to not stink, and you know, it's gonna be 2 horsepower less really at 9,000 RPM, so it's not a big deal. And for us, we do want to run this thing clean, so this should be pretty simple to do. Just a couple cuts, some welding, and we're good to go. And there it is, everything welded up. And let's see how this fits. Thankfully, I have this nice flex section here and these V-bands. So if there was any small little errors, and they certainly can occur with a welder such as myself, you know, there's going to be enough that's gonna be taken up there and with this donut. So we just have to do a little bit of tweaking here to line this up properly, and we can bolt this all together. We are now moving on to almost getting this engine fired. We're gonna need an ECU for that. And I reached into my stash. My EG, thank you, Aaron, came with a Honda S300. This is a P72 ECU that has been chipped for a B series. I am gracefully giving it to Dave in his EF. But in order to be able to tune this and tune it properly, we do need to install an AEM wideband gauge. This is their X series wideband controller, so it doesn't have an actual gauge, excuse me, but it is one of the fastest responding sensors on the market, and it is going to be critical making sure that this ECU is tuned properly to run that engine. 4 wires for that AEM wideband, and we are done. And for those of you joining us, we are using a versatile wiring harness, which means we don't have to do anything in terms of wiring this whole setup up because it was all plug and play. So you can see we are all connected, ready to go here, which means oil and coolant time, DP, is that right?
I think so, yep.
As you guys just saw, I just sauced up the motor and threw in a new oil filter. And for that, we are using OE Plus from Pro Series. This is a new brand that is very high quality. We've been really impressed by how well made everything is and how nicely packaged it all is. And I also want to note this high quality nitrile gasket on here, everybody. Type R red, matches the valve cover. And for engine oil, we've gone with Valvoline High Mileage. This is a full synthetic formulation, and the reason we decided to go high mileage is we don't know the mileage on this engine, but based on how it looked, we're assuming it's high mileage, and I especially like the fact that this has a premium seal conditioner in it that helps treat and prevent leaks. We also know it has a fairly aggressive detergent package in it, so it'll help decarbon the engine. We saw lots of carbon in there. As you can see, the laptop's open and fired up with the Honda software. Tuning by Nick sent us a startup map, so let's just turn the key and see what happens.
Oh boy, DP, here we go. It's always nerve-wracking.
Good luck.
What is going on? This thing sounds so quiet. You can actually talk.
It's purring like a kitten. That is incredible.
Oh my goodness.
I have no idea how long this engine was sitting before we bought it, but I'm sure it was years. Well, listen to it. It sounds like a new engine.
Wow.
It's amazing.
This is incredible.
Wow, it's so quiet. Should I give it a little flip?
You're going to have to do it here because I haven't installed the pedal. Oh, that's it. That's it. That's the VTEC sound, that four-cylinder.
I'm amazed how good this engine sounds. Wow. Well, there you go, guys.
Wow.
Victory is mine. I've got a red valve cover. I already win. Well, there you go, fellas, a little taste of how the exhaust sounds, and so far I gotta say I'm really impressed. It's got a really deep tone and a mellow tone. It's not raspy at all, and I'm curious obviously to hear what it sounds like once we get into VTEC and really rip on it. I hope it's got like really good presence to it, but as far as like, you know, idle and low RPM use, just blipping it here in the shop, it sounds really, really good, and the engine sounds great too, which is a huge relief after, you know, the drama that we had early on. So really excited and really encouraged by the progress we're making here. And that is a wrap on this one, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. And obviously we've got a little bit more work to do before we go to the dyno, but you'll hear this exhaust and this engine at full song very soon. So stay tuned because it's gonna be good.